everyone, and welcome back to our channel, OpinionLoading. Today, we have some very special guests with us. We have the President of the Caribbean Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Dr. Kern Tobias, as well as the Public Affairs Field Secretary and Religious Liberty Director of the Caribbean Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Pastor Clive Dutton. With us today, Pastor Kern Tobias has been married for 38 years, Pastor Tobias. Correct me if I'm wrong. 38 years, and he has been a pastor for 42 years. He's the president of the conference, and he has a terminal degree in family ministry. And Pastor Dutton says that he just wants to tell everybody that when it comes to youth, he is the incurable optimist. Now, we know that many people spend a lot of time, more time planning for the wedding day than they spend time planning for marriage, which is lifelong, right? Or should be lifelong. And so today, our topic is when to say I do. We've chosen these two distinguished men because we know that Pastor Tobias probably married more and Pastor Dutton probably married more than 100 people in their lifetime in ministry. And we felt like their contribution would be great to our series, the ID series. So without further ado, we will start with our very first question. Amanda, do you want to take it away?
Sure, no problem. We'll just like to find out, to set the stage, what is your view on dating and what is considered healthy dating?
Well, dating is part of social and emotional development. You know, in building a relationship, there has to be a date. You must have the person, and once you have found the person that you believe God is leading you to, then dating allows you to get to know that person a little more, get to know the person's background, the family orientation, you know, life goals, dreams. It's really a very important part of social and emotional and relational development. Yes.
Yes.
I would just like to say, of course, I am the junior in this thing today. You know, well, I'm older than Dr. Tobias. I'm the junior. But I would like to say that, you know, it's the time to observe boundaries too. And this is critical. Now, perhaps what qualifies me to speak here this morning is the fact that, as with Dr. Tobias, less than him, I have had so many people, you know, to counsel and to marry. And knowing where I am lacking, I would refer some cases to other people, all right? So that if I have a real testing case coming to me for marriage, I'll refer to somebody like Dr. Tobias or Pastor Lois, you know, or even check our former president of the States, Dr. Daniel, if I have a challenge as a single person. Just recently here, a guy who had been helping, you know, in terms of financially, he had a stroke and stuff. He called me. I'm not sure where he is with the church. I'm not so much dating went on. They announced me he's going to get married. I said, but to who? And I said, where are you attending church now? How long you have known the person? And these are questions that, you know, it was proving difficult for him to answer. So the whole exploration process and discovery process Dr. Tobias mentioned, I'm in favor of. And I told him quite frankly that we would like to have at least 3 months to 6 months of counseling. And he was stunned by that, you know? Mm-hmm. And that is part of we getting to know you and you getting to know each other. So I agree totally with Dr. Tobias has said, and I believe it's a relationship where boundaries should be observed.
All right. Well, what is considered healthy dating though?
Well, if I could go first at this time, healthy dating is where values, you know, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we pride ourselves on values. where values come into being. One young lady who expected to get married to a young man, but 4 months ago, told me the relationship crashed. And I said, why? She said, I had to remind my partner about boundaries and about values. And I would say some of these values are decency, mutual respect, commitment to a shared vision, so that a healthy relationship where you're trying to engage in a life enhancement program, get the best out of the person spiritually, morally, emotionally, and not compromise them in any way.
But of course, well, values are broad-based. They are broad-based. They are not just personal, which they really eventuate to be, but they are also familial, societal, and even the church culture. So values will determine how a person relates to all the different influences in his or her life. So for example, personally, a person may have a value for truth, integrity, authenticity, reliability, trust. These are personal values. For family, the whole matter of mutual respect. How do they relate? Are they forgiving? Is this a forgiving family, or do you hear of situations where daddy and mommy are always in argument? Or that person says, "I don't talk to my brother," or "I don't talk to my mother." Those are things you have to note. And when you hear those things, you have to. There are red flags. There are red flags. But if you hear a person say, we are forgiving, caring, loving family, begin to smile and feel good that at least we are seeing values, we are seeing principles that we can build on. Societal, we have, we say that Trinidad is a fun-loving, party-going place. So if you hear when it's carnival time, you saying we're heading to camp, and your friend is saying, "Nah, I ain't going to camp, I have to go and see the mass grass," or whatever, then So all these are factors you have to consider, and the church. And the church is a person willing to share their gifts and abilities and talents with the church, or are they just to themselves? Are you the person who will want to commit to Christ, or is that person just there because of you? Those are things that must be considered very, very carefully.
I'm glad that you mentioned red flags, because our last podcast dealt with red flags in a relationship or whatnot. And Pastor Dutton, he mentioned that this is a time where you observe boundaries and set boundaries. So my question is, at what point in time of the relationship do you set boundaries? Is it very early on in the relationship, or just as you meet this individual? Like, which part of dating do you establish boundaries or expectations?
I would long to hear Dr. Tobias' answer, but I would say as early as possible.
Definitely from the get-go, from the start.
Yes, I would say that.
Because if you allow the emotions to take precedence, before you know it, you are dragged into a situation that you wonder what happened. So from the very start, you have to set up the boundaries and say, these are my limits and what I am prepared to allow and stuff. And from the very start, that's a very important point Dr. Dutton made there, and I really stand with him on that. From the very start, yes.
I think it was a couple of years ago, a girl called me. She was dating a very prominent guy in the church, so of course no names will be mentioned. She said, "Pastor, something, I have one regret. We didn't set boundaries from get-go, as Pastor Dr. Tobias said. We didn't set boundaries." And I said, "Why a regret?" She said, "Pastor, I have to break up this relationship." I said, what is the real issue? She said, "Well, what I found is that in the dating, there was very little conversation, but there was a rush to action. A rush to action. But when I asked, let us discuss this, let us pray, let us perhaps discuss something spiritual before we go on to the mere socializing. And she says, the guy just couldn't do that. And I would say that's another red flag, you know what I mean? Just couldn't do it. It just, I want to talk, I want to explore, I want to find out, as Elder Tobias mentioned, but he was always in a rush to go to the physical, you know, and I think we mustn't fool ourselves. We have this challenge within our community too, and we don't want to talk to it. So I compliment you all, because I'm sure Dr. Tobias will compliment you all for raising this. This is so relevant now.
Yeah.
You know, especially with COVID, it's so relevant. People are rushing into relationships, some because of dependencies and because they've run out of stocks. I mean, sorry to say it's so raw. So I give you 1,000 marks out of 100 for this.
Indeed. Sure.
Thanks, Pastor Dutton. Now, we are moving right along. Author and motivational speaker Laura Jones defined dating and courtship using an analogy. She said, dating is like a comma, whereas courting is like a period. This means that dating presents a man and a woman with a number of potential ends to their relationship, whereas courting has only one, which is marriage, right? So in your view, is there such a thing as courting too long? And how long should you court before getting engaged?
Well, the author you quoted, whilst she did a great job to explain, the progression from dating to courting, I could not fully agree that there is no end to courting, because maybe you can say a semicolon or a colon instead of a comma.
Because for dating, that is, you mean
for courting, she said that dating is like a comma, but courting is like a full stop, but
yes.
But I'm saying that now that we are into the practice of counseling, and sometimes it is in the counseling that some people get to come to the realization, no, this is not, no, this is not.
Okay.
So
understood.
But so having said that, then let's get back to the germane question about courting, courting and how long, because it's very frustrating and confusing if two people are courting after having dated. They agree that you are the one. Yes, I agree. You are the one that I would like to spend the rest of my life with, and there is no purposefulness about this relationship. Whilst a time will be critical, you can't just say a time. You can't just say it has to be this number of years, but 2 years. From the social scientists give the impression that within 2 years, you should be able to come to a reasonable conclusion to this relationship.
The point Dr. Bass made about the experts talking about the 2-year limit being enough time. You can't just, personalities differ, people mature at different rates, but you have to have a cutoff point. But it's amazing, how could folks be involved in getting closer to each other without an end in mind? And that in my mind is critical. And may I raise another red flag here? I'm having requests from, some of our young people who are contemplating and attacking the church's position on the issue of unequally yoked. I mean, I had 2 shocks recently here. When it wasn't an issue. I said, you're Seventh-day Adventist. It's the partner you're planning and one counseling for. Is that person an SDA? And they tell me no. And, I have this philosophy that, don't mix the evangelizing with the socializing. People will tell you, well, he will come across, he will get converted. Well, only God knows the future. And it is a kind of dangerous risk. So that I am saying that, there must be some kind of goal in mind that both of you all could agree to. And if the other person is shying away from setting a goal, well, then that gives you an indication that that relationship is really not for you until that person, matures. Thank you.
The experts agree that 2 years is a reasonable time to work out those kinks. But we are saying that even with the counseling process that may begin 6 months before the marriage, some people have walked away because they were not capable of exploring or identifying real issues that they couldn't cope with, because it was very emotional, nice, like attractive, he's handsome. But when you get inside with a counselor, you may realize it was not an anger problem or a control problem or disrespect for women. Some men cannot see a woman as their equal. And when you begin to explore some of these issues, then the eyes of the lady may be open, or the eyes of the man may be open, as the case would be. So all we are saying is, do not lock yourself into any human relationship unconditionally until the Lord gives you that clearance, when you have sat with a counselor. But 2 years is a reasonable good time after you have determined at the end of the dating that you can move on. But there may be factors that may make it a little longer, as the case would be.
Thank you very much, Pastor Tobias, for that point, because, as young people, sometimes we find ourselves being coerced into marriage, because, sometimes, okay, so two persons might not be financially stable to enter into marriage, but they love and care for each other, want to get to that point where they do get married. And then you have pressures from family and church members saying, you all have been dating or courting for too long, and it's time that you'll settle and get married. So I appreciate that point. But with respect to the finances part of it, is finances then a reasonable reason? I don't want to say reasonable reason, but that's the only word I can come with for holding off on getting married. Because I wouldn't give my viewpoint on it. I'll let you all let the experts speak on that.
Well, if I should go on this one, I think it shouldn't be the first thing, but it shouldn't be the last thing. There's a reality. I believe as Seventh-day Adventists, we talk about the man, all right? And of course, we conceive of the pilot and the co-pilot, not a marriage as a boss and a worker. But we expect, all right, that there will be the ability to take care of responsibilities. I mean, look at the Garden of Eden. I tell people, go out, decorate it, put all the furniture in the first 6 days, make sure they had a comfortable place, a home. And you might start off renting, but there should be a goal beyond that. We know it's kind of tough right now. Young people at a certain, even the middle class level, to own their own home, but there should be a goal in mind. So I'm saying we mustn't make the material things the major thing. The major thing should be the character, the development, the love for excellence, whether it's formal or informal education. But certainly, it should be expected that especially the gentleman should accept the area of being priest of the home and also manager of the home. Now, these days, some people see that's controversial, the wife working and the husband working, and they could quote for you $1 million, but there's a reality to that. But at the same time, there are responsibilities in marriage, and finance is a critical one. And if you don't see a way out and you're just going blindly, how should I say this? And Dr. Tobias could blow the offside whistle if he cares to. But carefully, people saying, well, we have faith then. We don't know where the money came from, but we're going to get married. We don't even know where we're going to live. We buy the in-laws now, okay? And God will take care. I think you must apply the reality check to that.
Sure.
And I give way to Dr. Tobias.
Sure, the wise man Solomon in Ecclesiastes 10:19 says, a feast is made for laughter, wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. the mighty sparrow said, you can't make love without money. You can't make love on an empty belly, you know. So, and Christ put it beautifully. He said, if you are going to build a house, you have to count the costs. So if you're going into marriage, there has to be a consideration. How are we going to get by? So that, as Dr. Dutton said, if a person doesn't have a job, there's not a proactive way of dealing with your financial needs, then spend the time getting that sorted out. You know, because you can't pray yourself out of that. You have to go and learn a skill, you know, something, you know, finish your degrees, get something going. Yeah, that's important. And that is enough to say, we're going to wait. And that's the point I was making, that you're courting, but after 2 years, you know, I mean, the guy didn't finish his degree, didn't complete whatever, he doesn't have a job, then let's wait another year and see how God is going to do it. It doesn't hurt. Because that is one of the stresses that can indeed impact the stability and permanence of a marriage.
You know, Dr. Tobias, if I could just come into the role of grandparents, I personally believe grandparents should enjoy their retirement. You know, I'm telling you the straight. I have young people coming to me and they're criticizing their grandparents. When I dig into it, because the grandparents did the wrong thing from the start, encourage the marriage, encourage the living at home. And then when children came, the grandparents had the responsibility to take care. You know, it's just unfair to grandparents, you know, so that I concur, and there's a responsibility factor that we must not ignore. As Christians as we are, and as praying as we are, there's a responsibility factor.
In this context, right, is marriage for everyone? Because, you know, someone could probably identify or come to the realization that, you know, maybe I should just remain single. Marriage is not for me. So I don't know, like, do you all think marriage is for everyone, or how do you identify, or how could someone identify that after all this time, you know, maybe it's best that the single life is best? Well,
marriage is honorable, the Bible says, and the bed is undefiled. Whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. So that we are. I like to refer to myself as an advocate for marriage and for women. I mean, because of what I've seen, and Dr. Dutton was just saying, but because of what I've seen in my pastoral life, women have been put through. Somebody has to speak up for women because the culture doesn't facilitate that. Sometimes the church does not always, you know, facilitate that. So somebody has to, and in my training and experience, I have that propensity towards being an advocate for women. But the question you're asking, if marriage is for everybody, and we can say no. It is, and while we say no, because in your panel today, you know, we have 50%, you know, both sides, you know, I mean, and I was listening to a program in Tobago not too long ago, Dr. Dutton, and it was Grenada, I think it was. And your reference, you know, your reference with distinction and honor, that a person can choose to be single with dignity and with honor, you know. And Paul makes a point, you know, in 1 Corinthians 7, he says from verse 25, concerning virgins, I have no command from the Lord, yet I have judgment as one whom the Lord in his mercy has made trustworthy. I suppose, therefore, that this is good because of the present distress. He says, are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be loose. Are you loose from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But even if you do marry, you have not sinned. And if a virgin marries, she has not sinned. Nevertheless, such will have trouble in the flesh, but I would spare you. But this I say, brethren, the time is short, so that now, and even those who have wives should be as though they had none, and those who weep as though they, and he goes on to say that, in other words, he's making the point that to be single is when you are single, you can give all your attention to God. if you're married, you have to share yourself between God and your spouse. I mean, and he said, this is, some people can bear that and some can't. You know, Christ himself, when he spoke to some of these issues, you know, they said, that's a hard saying, you know, some of these things are hard. But marriage is really not for everybody, you know. Not that everybody cannot be married, but marriage is not for everybody, because some people choose to be eunuchs. Some people are born eunuchs, as the Bible says, and some people make a decision to be eunuch, to be a eunuch. And but it's a tough decision. But once it is made, people must be respected and be defended, and there must be advocates to stand up for people who say, I am choosing not to be married. Don't make me feel, because I'm not married, that I'm less than somebody who is married. If every person has equal value in the sight of God. Yeah.
Well, you know, I have faced this issue time and time again. And I heard Pastor Horrell, I think we were in a panel together, and he said, you know, if you choose our decisions, you know, it has to be a gift from God.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just a thing you take lightly, because if it's not a gift from God for you, then you could end up deceiving yourself, huh? And that will be the greater tragedy. So that one has to approach this topic very sincerely, with great maturity. And the good book says, man, know thyself. So, and it's very important. And God must be the guide. I was telling the folks in North Caribbean and Antigua yesterday, we brought both conferences together. God must be your constant companion. It is not easy. The challenges, and I speak for myself here also, it's not easy. So you have to know what your goals in life are, where you are, you know, how virtually hearing the voice of God guiding you. This must not be taken lightly.
So we agree that not everyone should be married. So for someone who has been dating, you know, often and not finding that spouse or finding someone they really would like to settle down with, how or what advice could you give someone who may be having problems to find a spouse? Like, what in them could they identify and say, well, maybe it's best I remain single? Like, how does one identify that that is a decision they should make, if that is even possible?
That's a very good question.
Dr. T, could I just say a word?
Yes, I was waiting for you to say the word.
You know, there's a wonderful saying, when in doubt, do it out. I don't know how else to say that, because to keep, could we get I want to quote from a message to young people. And I'm dealing just with your question of the wording, Amanda. You know, you're saying you're dating and dating and dating, but it's not working out.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an indirect message from above saying I shouldn't get married? Well, you have to answer, the person has to answer that.
Okay.
And answer that honestly, be true to yourself. Because the minute you come up with that conclusion, then you shouldn't be dating. Ellen White has a statement in message to young people where she says, you know, it is a crime of no small magnitude. I'm quoting Ellen White from memory.
Yeah.
To be floating around.
Yeah.
All right. And they say you're sure marriage is for you. That is poor comfort to a girl you're dating with. If you understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
That's poor comfort to someone you are dealing with. And I go along with Elder Tobias when he made a particular reference about defending women. And I believe that with all my heart. I was on the Sharon task force for the government. And there was a guy, some of us men were in denial. He was trying to show me that as much women abuse men as men abuse women. I tell him you're totally wrong. The facts are there before us. Exactly. You have one or two women who kill men, but the amount of men who are killing women, I mean, the ratio is like 4 to 1, 80 to 20, 90 to 10. And I was talking to this guy and I said, but how this guy could be so skewed in his thinking? Obviously, he had a bias against women.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to call it out when we see it.
Exactly.
We have to call it out when we see it. And it now mustn't be a theory, it must be practical too. So I'm saying, if you've come to that conclusion, all right, don't just float around. And that is what I want to say clearly.
Also, I would say one has to be very realistic about one's expectations. Sometimes a person can be so unreal and unreasonable in their expectations that God has sent a real man or a real woman, but you are looking for an angel.
Mhm.
And you just keep going around the mulberry bush, changing, hoping that this angel will show up, when God is saying, why not lower your expectation? And here is a genuine Christian young man, sincere, wonderful Christian young lady, may not have all the assets that you're looking for, but together you can work towards it. So I would say, if it is that you are dating and courting and things like that, obviously you have an interest. And Mrs. White gave the impression that if you have been praying 3 times a day, then pray 6 times a day. Ask God for guidance. Ask God for transformation of your own values, your own principles about life, and for the other person. And there are so many wonderful marriages that could be happy and could be fulfilling if we would sometimes be a little more reasonable and a little more realistic about this thing about marriage. Some people have seen so many movies that they're looking for people who are only in Hollywood.
Dr. Tobias, I hope the host, the noble host, don't mind me coming in here. I never knew about the Bridgertons, but a lot of Adventist young people were tied up to it. And one girl who is not married, we have a frank talk. And she said, something, Pastor, that was something else. The guy, I'm like that. The girl got the ideal guy. I'm looking for that. And then she quoted a part of the movie and sent me the clip. Well, I gotta watch it too, to be frank with you. Where the girl says, I burn for you. And that was the byline. I didn't criticize young people for watching it, but I heard it was a pure thing. It wasn't a matter of oversexed. And I think that's part of the story too. Some of us are looking at too much of these things, and they're reshaping our values subconsciously in terms of who the ideal is, So we have to watch that too. Thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say that because earlier on when Pastor Tobias mentioned, that society and the people we are around also influence our values. So yes.
Sure.
Some persons being skeptical, they are skeptical about counseling on a whole before and even after marriage. What are the benefits of premarital and marital counseling?
Well, premarital and marital counseling, it's as important to a relationship as a medical doctor is important to the physical body and the health of a person. Right? So premarital counseling is like getting a checkup. It's getting a medical checkup, but in this case, a relational checkup, a social checkup. And what that does, it is about self-awareness, helping a person to be aware of himself or herself. There's a Johari window that says, there are some things and there's something that somebody has to tell you. And sometimes that counseling, that premarital counseling exposes people. And we say to the young couple, for marriage, I am just asking you to be frank, to be fair, to be open, to be transparent. Say exactly what you would like to have said. Ask the questions that we'd like to have answered. I am simply here as a referee to guide the process of self-exploration, self-disclosure. And of course, we are guided by the Spirit of God, by the Word of God, and social science and what have you. But premarital counseling is critical. And like I would say to young couples, if I have a choice to do your wedding, to do the wedding, and I have the time to do the counseling, I will choose doing the counseling.
Wow.
Because that's my terminal degree. And I mean, it's a promise we make when we do that, when we do the doctoral in family ministry. You make a commitment. It's just like in medicine, you have the what do you call it? The vow you make, to save life. Socratic vow. That's
Hippocratic oath.
Hippocratic, right? Hippocratic oath. We take a vow when we do that degree in family ministry to do everything we can to help to save a relationship, to save a marriage, to save a family. And so I commit myself to that. Now I'm saying more no than yes to do counseling, because of course my position doesn't allow me time. But I take pride, and God has really blessed by my service to young couples that the success rate is high. I have a very high success rate because I'm enjoying my marriage, and I'm able by under God, to inspire. So counseling is critical, and I want to encourage all young people, spend the time, put in the hard work, because it's always better to prevent than to cure. And what counseling does, it gives you a built-in understanding of what to expect, and you can now prevent yourself having marital problems, or at least being able to solve them, even if they come up. And so go for it. Counseling is, and the church says there must be about a 6-month period that you should give for counseling. Yes, so sometimes the situation doesn't always warrant it because of circumstances, but that should what one should aim for.
I agree 1000%. I am counseling a Presbyterian couple now, and the issues that surface there, I wish I had them before they were married. And all the experts, the WHO, the International Family Life Marriage Association, that is a number of religious groups come together, all of them are showing the value of counseling. I would go so far as to say that if one person in the team, all right, one of the, whether the boyfriend or the girlfriend, one of the two, does not wish to have counseling, it shows up a character defect. Mm-hmm. It shows up a lack of willingness to grow and to learn and to be exposed. If I weren't a Christian, I would say when Pastor Tobias mentioned a Johari window, he was stealing my thunder. But since I know about the Holy Spirit, I'm saying the Holy Spirit has just been guiding us in this session. Because as soon as you ask that question, I study that. There are things about you that you would know, other people will know. And there are things only God knows. Yeah. And to my mind, the role of a spiritual counselor is compulsory.
Sure.
Compulsory. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, this conversation is going really great. But, all good things must come to an end, unfortunately.
Okay, Amanda, we understand.
Well, if you all are open to coming back and having more discussions about this, that would be great, because, you all already gave us your stamp of approval, which we totally appreciate.
Tremendous.
And yes, we are really glad that you all agreed to come and have this discussion with us. Like you all said, it really is a pressing issue at this point in time, especially throughout this pandemic, right? And so we are on the right track, you know?
Sure, definitely.
Tremendous.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
So again, thank you very much, Pastor Tobias and Pastor Dutton. Caroline and I, we really do appreciate it. And I hope that you all are open to coming back if we do request. Yeah. Well, look at that.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
That goes without saying.
I'm one of the boss. I'm one of the boss's managers in order to be secretary.
Sure. Indeed.
So we just want to reach out to our viewers at this point in time to just remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Leave your comment down below. Whatever questions you may have for our pastors here, feel free to drop a comment and we will sure get back to you all on it. This is a serious topic and we have a lot more in store for you guys, all right? Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching and do enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.